Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Here We Are podcast. My name's Shane Mauss Raj. Why don't you introduce yourself to the folks?
Hi, my name is Raj Sivaraman. I'm a PhD virologist and comedian living in Brooklyn, New York.
All right. Well, it's somewhat reassuring to know that a virologist hasn't fled Brooklyn.
No, well, not. I'm also a comedian, so I don't really have a luxury pad up in the Hamptons that I can escape to.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. How's Brooklyn doing right now?
They're doing okay. I'm like a few blocks away from the hospital, so I hear a lot of ambulances going by. But yeah, from my understanding, Brooklyn is doing okay, but I think Queens is kind of the epicenter where it's kind of the heaviest hit and where I think they're really moving a lot of the traffic to.
Man. So what's your background, by the way? I don't we know each other through comedy, but I'm not familiar with your scientific background.
I have a PhD in virology. Well, technically, I think it's in microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics. But I studied herpes viruses for 5 years and then studied retroviruses for another 4 years. So kind of not coronaviruses, but other viruses.
Yeah. Well, there's Corona's getting so much press these days. People have forgotten all about herpes.
I know.
We still got to be aware of herpes.
Herpes is still a problem, but I think if you're socially isolating, you probably don't have to worry about herpes as much.
First off, I fortunately know so very little about herpes.
Okay.
But so I was just kind of thinking of this in terms of like diabetes and all of these other problems that people have that are like, fairly easily manageable or treatable with proper care and prescriptions and whatever else goes into it. And this is one of the major concerns of hospitals and doctors and nurses and everything being overwhelmed is that all of these small things, things that in our modern society are small because of modern medical advances, things that we are privileged enough to get to take for granted.
Right.
Now they're turning into these massive problems, sometimes even life or death scenarios, things that used to be something that you didn't even have to sweat about.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job to kind of treat all these diseases like as an individual disease, but like not kind of the holistic aspect of like, if you have this disease and you get something else, then that impacts how you respond to an infectious disease, especially with coronavirus.
So wait, if you have herpes, you could be more susceptible to corona?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about diabetes.
Diabetes, yes.
Yeah.
Diabetes. We were. So sorry, I'm stuck on herpes now. Tell me, let's work through herpes. Let's get that off my mind first.
Okay.
How does herpes work? What's it all about?
Yeah, so herpes is a DNA virus, and you can get it through kind of saliva or sort of any sort of genital mucous membranes as well. So it's not respiratory like coronavirus. And I think, it's primarily there's 8 types of herpes viruses. There's human herpes virus 1 and 2, which are herpes simplex, which is usually what you think of when you think of herpes. And herpes 1 is the mouth herpes. Herpes 2 is the genital herpes. And then herpes 3 is chickenpox. And then herpes 4 through 8 are predominantly herpes viruses nobody ever really deals with because we are not immunocompromised. But if you are immunocompromised, then they become issues. So that's things like Kaposi's sarcoma, herpes virus, and cytomegalovirus. These are other herpes viruses. And there's some that cause like rosacea.
Hmm. I was just coming to understand the other day. Is it that the word pathogen is like is when there's one that's like is basically just a virus that impacts humans. It's just like a word for harmful
Yeah,
virus.
I mean, harmful virus or harmful bacteria, anything that infects, causes disease in humans is called a pathogen. Although arguably a pathogen can be a pathogen for any other animal. So if it's like a dog, if you study dogs, you can have dog pathogens, or you know, it's just anything that causes disease in some species. Although you can have a pathogen that's, for instance, you know, this coronavirus is a pathogen for us, but in other species it doesn't really cause significant disease at all. So it's arguably not really a pathogen for
Right. Okay.
bats and other animals.
So it's just a way of classifying a virus as just like here's a thing that we actually care about. These other
Yeah.
things don't impact us. So
Yeah, it's just how our brains can process things. It's like we can't study viruses that don't infect us. There are plenty of viruses that don't infect us that are very interesting, but
yeah.
we tend to only focus on the ones that make us sick.
So between so herpes 1, can you get herpes 1 mouth, that's mouth herpes, right?
Yeah.
Can you get mouth herpes through how can you get mouth herpes? Just through saliva? Is there any
Yeah.
like
Through saliva, it's like kissing, any sort of salivary interaction,
and
licking.
her and herpes 1 that's just like sores on the mouth.
Yep. You
And
can actually get, um, you can get, I forget how, this has been a while since I studied herpes 1, but you can get, I think you can get genital herpes infection with mouth herpes.
yeah.
So if you are doing oral sex, you can spread herpes 1 genitally,
Huh.
but it
Scary.
doesn't, I don't think it spreads back that way.
It doesn't go the other way?
No, I don't think
If you
so.
have herpes 2, if
I
someone
don't,
has herpes 2 and you give them like oral
you don't get herpes 2 in your mouth, I don't think. Or it could be the other, I forget what it is, but it could be the other way around.
oh, oh, we should look into it. I mean, I guess either way, it is. I've always thought with sex, you know, there's so much, there's so much emphasis put on condom use,
Mhm.
but everyone's still like, well, we're still gonna have like oral and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, but there's that's
I remember when I was in middle school, they were still emphasizing, like, even if you do oral, you still should wear condoms to avoid
okay.
passing STDs. But I
Okay.
grew up in Kentucky, so there, it's kind of
Yeah.
amazing that I got any sex ed whatsoever.
Yeah. What? Okay. Well, what does I've now practiced. I've never used the what's that? Isn't there like a some sort of fruit roll up thing that you're supposed to put on?
Yeah,
Like
I want to
oh,
say dental dam, but I could be wrong.
dental dam. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. Um, well, as everyone's talking about all of these various ways of protecting ourselves, it's
Yeah.
funny that we um I uh I don't know, maybe this is an interesting opportunity for people to be like, oh yeah, sometimes you need to wear like plastic on like parts of your body to avoid
I mean, yeah.
incurring health costs,
I mean, that's
or
basically
rubber.
what gloves are, is just condoms for your hands.
Yeah, yeah. So how does your background, um, and also as a comedian, like what kind of thoughts have you been having about this pandemic from your background that are maybe just different than the average public?
Yeah, I feel like I've been going through a lot of, I've been really kind of like diving in hard on like the science behind it and trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out like, what do we know? Why do we know the things that we know? And, trying to like, I think there's a lot of propagation of stories of things that people read or heard. And that often is based not necessarily on strong data or science whatsoever. But I think the thing I feel is, I feel very human with this, because I feel like before this kind of spread throughout the United States, I was like, it's not going to be a big deal. Our government's going to take care of things. We'll be fine, and there's nothing to worry about. It's predominantly, affecting, what everyone's saying, who is wrong about
Yeah.
things. Everyone's like, yeah, it's mostly affecting older people. It's, but it's like, I
I
think
was wrong so many times.
so many times. And I think it's like, I kind of just have faith that our institutions will hold up to, to
Yeah.
do what they're doing. And it's, as you see this, and you kind of like, I think from my understanding of like how pandemics would work or how viruses spread, you would imagine that there sort of is a dead end at some point. And, I just figured that we would have hit a dead end by now, but I think we were just still going through the very early stages of a really unprecedented disease.
Yeah, I mean, it's my opinion so far from quickly playing catch up, just from talking with the people that I've talked with, which, I don't really watch the news. So
Yeah.
the information that I'm basing this on, other than, whatever my past knowledge base is of, I've never really studied virology much. My knowledge about evolution helps a little bit, just in terms of being able to conceptualize some aspects of what's going on. But it definitely, it seems like we are not anywhere near the worst of it yet. To me, I don't think that is the case, and I don't think, as I just had a post. Basically, I was kind of like posting just for comics, just like a heads up to comics, because comics are a desperate, irresponsible bunch, and that just had their livelihood go away, which leads to more desperation and more irresponsibility than already the most irresponsible, desperate population that there is. And I was just trying to, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why what we're hearing on the news is seemingly more hopeful than what I'm hearing talking with scientists. If the news is going and getting their information from scientists, why I'm hearing a different story. I don't know if they're trying to put like a more positive spin. I don't know if I don't know if they're being fed a more positive spin or a more hopeful spin. I don't know if they're wanting to just not tell people that summer is canceled, because everyone's just going to be like, fuck this, I'm going outside, and not paying any attention to anything. And so that they're going, oh, 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks, they're going to be like, yeah, 2 more weeks. Just assuming, people will be patient enough for that. I don't know what's happening, but I don't think this is, my opinion, flawed, imperfect opinion. And I have been way wrong about this thing so many times. And so hopefully by the time this comes out, I'm wrong in the other direction, which is that I'm overreacting.
Yeah.
But my sense is that this isn't gonna be a fun little 2-3 week long sabbatical for us. I don't think that's the case.
I think the most positive estimates that I've seen is like it will, and this is like, I think very positive, is that it will peter out around July.
Yeah.
But I think like you have to, I think there's assumptions that there's like a seasonality to it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing from what I've seen in reality that there is seasonality to this.
Yeah. Otherwise it wouldn't be a global. I mean, there's people that are in summers There's
Yeah.
people in every season right now, and it's hitting the globe.
Yeah, it's going everywhere. And I think that it seems like this is a virus that is just going to have to burn itself through the entire population. And
Yeah.
and it stinks, but I feel like we're looking like 2 years
Yeah.
before we are like can look at the back end of this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not booking shows until the middle of August myself, with the kind of expectation of having to cancel, those
Yeah.
shows as well. And my little comedy shows are the least of my fucking concern right now. But I had someone on talking a year pretty confidently, very, very recently. And
I think probably I think the things to think about is like I don't think people will stomach being inside, like socially isolating till July, doing what we're doing now. I think people will demand that things will get back to normal. Because I don't think people can live off of $1,200 till, for 2 or 3 months and still be paying all their bills and things like that. So I think there's probably going to be some push to reopen things. But I think the most optimistic scenario is from getting out of this is that you just do staggered versions of social isolating.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll reopen in end of May and then do it again once it starts respiking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not
I mean, it's as far as I can understand, it's just like you wait this thing out for as long as you possibly can. This thing that is like infinitely patient. This virus doesn't care about our schedule. This virus does not care about us getting to an open mic.
It probably wants you to be at an open mic.
It wants you it's desperately waiting for you to slip up and go to an open mic.
I'll be waiting for you right there on the
microphone. Coming to the stage, you may know him from killing lots of people. It's Death.
Yeah.
It seems like the best strategy that things seem to be pointing towards is you wait as long as humanly possible, and you wait this thing out and get as many resources to hospitals and build more temporary hospitals and get resources to science, and it's just the reason why you want it to last longer and spread it out is to not overwhelm the hospitals. So if we can, are you getting calls during the pandemic?
People are concerned about me. Sorry about that.
It's no problem at all. I was making a joke because I was just texting my friend 𝕊𝕐𝕗 𝕬𝕐𝕗. You know Ramin?
Yeah.
He's a funny comic and fantastic artist. Check him out on Instagram. He'll brighten your day. But he's I was texting him something about he does some stuff for the podcast once in a while. But he got back to me and he said oh, hold on. It was the cliche thing that I'm not remembering off of the top of my head, which is that I'm experiencing a higher than average call volume. And I was like,
yeah,
that's just humanity right now.
I mean, I think that's like the good thing about this virus is that people actually are like, oh, I'm caring about you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you think the A's are getting a lot of calls right now, and then B's are going to get a
yeah.
lot of
I'm
calls?
an R and S, so it's working my way down to me. So
Staggered social contacting.
yeah,
Uh, so anyway, where were we before? Whoever was concerned about you so rudely interrupted our
I know. I'm sorry.
conversation. No, it's fine. So we were talking about something horrific. Yeah. So basically, if we can get a sense of how to make this manageable, what is the number of people that can be infected at any one time, and then create policy that somehow regulates that, of like, okay, we can have, everyone can go out and see Shane Moss's tour, Stand Up Science, but that's it. That's the only show that you can go to in town, and 200 people get to attend a live event. And they're like, okay, we're shutting it down again for another couple of weeks. That'll work its way through the system.
Works out great for you as long as you're that one event.
Yeah. I think comics are gonna have to like petition the government maybe to like do shows and
maybe this is the way for comedians to finally unionize.
Yeah, maybe. I think that it's gonna be a while before stand-up comedy is considered necessary.
Yeah,
people are always like, we need to laugh right now, and people are like, laughter's the best medicine. And then when shit actually hits the fan, people are like, oh, we don't need stand-up comedy at all. Like,
I'm just watching The Office.
Music at, I can see music at like an amphitheater or something like that, where people can like spread out on a lawn or something like that. Like maybe some interesting things like that happening. Even that seems like really risky right now. And I mean, we'd have to make some crazy cultural shift in terms of just like what normative behavior actually is. And I mean, a lot of the majority of people are, I would say, are adapting rather quickly. It's just all of the bad apples and I'm in Wisconsin right now, and there's the same kind of Midwestern tough guys. I
know who you're talking about. My wife's from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that are the same guys that refuse to go to the doctor or whatever under normal circumstances, or wash your hands or anything else. Try talking these guys into, and it's unfortunate because this isn't like, these same people might be against or not necessarily the same people, but there's people still against like illegal drugs or whatever. It's like, well, if someone does heroin, like, I don't contract heroin from them. Like I don't catch heroin from them. That's on them. If some fucking construction worker or whatever wants to still just like do business as usual, and we need construction, we need jobs, we can't just stop everything, and we need to keep a supply chain going. But what I'm saying, if someone thinks they're too tough for a virus, that's not, you don't get to risk everyone else's life because of this stuff. And it's still just not enough information out there. What would this is a huge legitimate problem, and this is one thing that our leadership does have, like, as annoying and misguided and corrupt and stupid and everything else is that I mean, the president, for the horrible job that he's doing, and the way in which he's using the idea of fake news to like gaslight everybody, as horrible as that is, the reason why it resonates with so many people is because there is just a zillion forms of especially since the internet's come online and everything else, it's just, everyone's got an opinion, and then there's incentive to have your own particular little take on it and have your own interesting take. And so how do people get, I'm privileged because I get to talk with scientists, and scientists are often all over the place with these things, which means science is working, by the way. It's how it corrects itself. But so anyway, how does someone like yourself, that is, you have a science background, but you don't know about this, what do you do to research something like this?
Oh, I go through the papers. So I feel like a lot of people, so one of the great examples I think of sort of misinformation and things that have spread so like wildly throughout the way people talk about this virus they talk about it being airborne, and they talk about it surviving on surfaces for days. And I've seen so many people talk about that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's based on one paper that was published in New England Journal of Medicine. And when you look at the paper and you look at what the data shows, it doesn't really prove any of that information that people have. I've seen so many news articles that kind of regurgitate and repeat the same information. And so knowing some virology and knowing what the data is showing, it doesn't quite make sense to be as worried about things as the news media is making it. So for the example of surfaces, I'm sure you probably heard.
I haven't had a single, so I don't watch the news. I get all of my information from doing this podcast and talking with experts. And this is one question. I have not asked about surfaces yet at all.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is just stuff I see. I don't really watch any of the cable news or anything on TV, but I get news via Twitter a lot. And
that's not even a criticism of news. It's if anything, it's just my reaction to the news is not healthy for me, and I value the sources of information that are at my disposal. And even when a scientist is saying some horrific news to me, there's a sense of calm to it, because I actually it sounds like reality, and reality. Feeling like I'm hearing reality is soothing to me. Hearing like I might not be hearing the truth from someone makes me very upset, and gets me too worked up.
Yeah.
So
I think, so for the thing with surfaces is that, so basically there was a study that looked at how when they put certain amount of virus on different surfaces, cardboard, stainless steel, copper, and plastic. And they reported that on stainless steel and plastic, this virus can live for 3 days, which is, very horrifying. And I've seen people be like, don't let your kids touch anything because the virus is living on the surface for days and days. And when you look at the actual data, and basically one of the important things to understand with this virus is this concept of infectious dose. Do you know what that is? People necessarily know what it is.
So there's kind of a threshold amount of a virus that you need to be infected, I imagine, right?
Yeah. So that's basically what infectious dose is. And when they did the study, they didn't really consider that. And when they're kind of evaluating what they're saying, that this is highly infectious or this can exist for a certain number of days. So first of all, we don't know the infectious dose of SARS-CoV-2, but SARS, there's kind of been some ballpark estimates of what the infectious dose is. And so when you kind of adjust for that, really the virus doesn't really live on any surface longer than a day. And that's on plastic. Everything else is a few hours. So it kind of really changes how you talk about things when you're worried about a virus living on surfaces for days versus it's you sneeze on it and then it will die over a period of time and you don't have to worry about it.
It's like with herpes, an infectious, with herpes, I can just if I just put the tip in, I'll be okay, right?
I mean, maybe
I mean,
however much
you're
however
not
much
supposed to answer like
it depends on how much liquid your fluid you're dealing with,
sure, sure.
what your load is.
Yeah, so many variables. So many
Yeah, I mean,
variables.
it's with any virus, how it spreads is really heavily limited on like however much virus is in your body or is in the fluid that's being spread at a given time. So even with studies I've seen about this coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, that there's like a peak and then it goes down after a certain period of time. So, and that's around the 5 to 7 day period is kind of what people have been saying is the peak of viruses. And that's also when you start seeing the symptoms.
And that's also still to say that, if a coronavirus is on a surface, am I thinking about this in the wrong way in that it's in some ways losing its potency by the minute? Like I would think that on day 1 it's more potent than day 2, than day 3, than day 4. Does it not have like kind of half-life sort of?
It does for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the way I think about it is like you think about any sort of liquid on a surface. There's liquid's not just inert. It's like it's thousands of virus particles that are in this liquid, as well as water and other fluids from your throat, cough or spit or whatever. And so there's antibodies and all these things, and they're all bounding into each other. So over that period of time, these particles are getting weakened, and so they're no longer able to infect anybody. So that's basically what's happening as it's just sitting there and like nobody's touching it. So really probably the best way of spreading it is really that person-to-person contact.
Why isn't it all hands on deck right now? Why aren't they recruiting everyone that has even a passing knowledge of virology to like be looking at data and figuring out whatever? And why isn't there, and they're like, oh, $2-3 trillion stimulus package. Let's see, should it go to these corporations? Should it go to these individuals? Why aren't they going, we're going to throw $3 trillion at science, get all of the best technology. We're going to get every single person. Like, okay, you were in the positive psychology department before. Well, guess what? Now you're working on coronavirus for a little while. Well, until we figure this shit out. Raj, you're doing some great comedy there for a minute. You want to do it again? Guess what? You're back to work for science for a little while. Is it?
There's been kind of a joke because I've noticed that there's a lot of physicists that I guess feel left out of this, and they've been like trying to do like coronavirus, their own like physics version of coronavirus research.
Well, maybe there's a parallel universe right now where there's not
No, there's like people are trying to publish papers on like coronavirus cryptography and like all these like things that's like, okay, you're just trying to be relevant somehow. Everyone's concerned about coronavirus, and you're like, well, I study.
I'm a string theorist, and here's what that has.
You can put a bunch of coronavirus on a string. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I got out of virology because there was like no funding. for decades, and I think that I don't know if you look at budget cuts over the last 20 years, I mean, it's probably been close to $1 trillion that could have been spent on research that would have found antivirals or anything that, we knew about SARS in 2002. And then nobody kind of followed up in programs to be like, let's have an antiviral just in case another SARS might happen. And that was like, everyone was really scared about SARS in 2002, and then we kind of all forgot about it. And then MERS happened a little bit later, and not enough people were infected or died that anyone, was like, yeah, we should really focus on having a coronavirus antiviral. But
this is Boy, I'd like to forget this one. I mean, this is going to be an interesting learning experience for a lot of people. I don't think people are going to forget this
No,
anytime soon. This is
no.
a qualitatively different experience. I think that if anything, people might overcorrect from it. I mean,
Good.
we need all hands on deck right now. But after everything's said and done, I mean, one of the greatest threats to modernity has been chronic stress over threats that actually don't exist.
Yeah.
People giving themselves heart attacks over imagined 401k problems that aren't even
No.
there yet, and so just the amount of mental health and stress levels and anxiety that are just going to persist for so long after this. Think of the kids growing up that are like having to like not understanding why they can look at their mom but they can't go and like hug her or whatever, and like what is the long-term effect of that?
I can't imagine. There was a very upsetting video I saw that like made me cry the other night. There was a video of a doctor coming back from the ER and his kid was like running up to try to hug him.
Oh my
and
God.
he's like tells him to stay away, don't come near him because he hasn't cleaned up yet or sanitized himself. And then he just like after doing that, like his kid just looks sad, and then the doctor starts crying. It's like the opposite of those like puppy reunites with soldier video.
Oh my God.
It's so upsetting.
Oh my God. This is like this every single one of these episodes that I do, I think of at least one new just horrific, upsetting scenario, and it's just when I like just can't take it anymore. This is, I mean, part of why I'm a comedian is because humor is like my survival skill. Yeah. This is like my self-defense. It's how my grandma used to like nervous laugh every time she had like bad news to share with it's just like in my genes or something. So I hear shit like that, I'm just like, oh my God. It's like it's like the in within the psychedelic space, which I'm also have a foot in. It's kind of comparable to the cosmic laugh of you have these experiences where you kind of conceptualize or in a way live through just like the most horrific human suffering or idea of it imaginable, and at the end of it you just like laugh because there is no other no other response that you can have. But yeah, this is I mean, there's going to be a lot of future virologists. No longer are kids going to be aspiring to be the president of the United States.
No,
that's for sure.
No. I think that's done.
But I mean, that might be some good that comes out of it. So there's going to be, a good 10 years from now, there's going to be a flood of aspiring virologists trying to get into.
I mean, that'd be one of the good things, but I think the big issue is is the government funding the research to do that.
Right. Well, I mean, if there's enough public pressure for things, then then hopefully, the idea is to get these figureheads and basically like cheerleaders and fundraisers, which is all most politicians are, just to get them pandering in the right direction.
The hundreds of thousands of virologists can finally form a lockstep voting block.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the money. First of all, people are like, where is this money coming from? It's like, well, 600 billion a year in oil subsidies that are actually hurting the economy and increasing dependence on fossil fuel, increasing global warming, which increases severe weather, which increases the money that we have to pay on hurricane relief and everything else. That's saving 600 billion right now, plus downstream effects of all the money that you're saving from cutting down on fossil fuel.
Yeah, all the FEMA recovery funds and
all of that. That's a long ways. That's a big chunk out of a stimulus package paid for right there. I mean, it's not like we don't have solutions. We just have to redirect some of the energy, as far as I can tell. I feel like I'm now getting on my soapbox a little bit. It's just I haven't talked to another comedian about this stuff, so now so anyway, this is, and what in terms of comedy, what since you may be the only comic that I have on any of these episodes, what have you been thinking about?
I don't know. Comedy's kind of like died up in my brain, and it's just sort of like, I need to know everything I need to know about this virus. And but I think like the closest thing I found that's funny is I don't know if you can see my hair. I had to cut my hair myself for the first time.
Oh, it looks great. Looks better than mine. I haven't cut my hair.
Oh, yeah. I used a beard trimmer to cut my hair. Because I timed this the shutting down of all businesses very poorly with my haircut. So yeah, but if we're going on 2 or 3 months of this, then I think everybody else is going to be having to be aspiring barbers, which may be an interesting downstream effect of all these guys with either terribly long hair or just the goofiest haircuts.
I mean, I was talking with someone in Wisconsin that their like grandma or whatever just went in for a haircut like a couple days ago or a week ago, really? Which I don't know how barbershop or any salons are still legally open. So I don't know if I was a little off on the days and got some bad information from that person.
Are bars
holy shit
open?
No.
Okay, everything's closed there.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I mean, yeah, I believe it's a safer at home. Actually, I went out today because of all the things that are a necessity. I desperately needed a webcam for my living.
So Best Buy's open.
And I got it out of a Walmart, which by the way, so I wanted to get one delivered. Mm-hmm. And it is, it's a part of my living. And I wanted to get one delivered, and the one that I wanted was available for delivery in June. That's how many people are like buying podcasting and webcams and and every kind of equipment. But yeah, I went to a Best Buy when I first arrived 2 or 3 weeks ago, and at the time it was you pull up to the curb, you tell them what you want, and they go in and get it, and had like gloves on and everything else. But anyway, the point is this is April 1st right now that I'm recording this. I'm not quite sure when it's coming out. But I had to drive, so I found a Walmart that had one, and so I was like, all right, I'll just make that the one trip to the supply run and everything, trying to only have to go for supplies like and food and stuff every like 3 weeks or something like that, 2-3 weeks if possible. Mm-hmm. And so get everything that I need, and including that. And I was surprised how much traffic there was on the road, for sure. But the idea of and I was surprised how busy the Walmart was. Mm-hmm. But in terms of busy, I mean, like, it was hard to go through an aisle that there wasn't already someone in, but there was still some empty aisles too. So it was not like it was packed or anything by any means. But the idea of someone getting a haircut right now, where literally someone's touching you,
hairs or
breathing over your head. Like
yeah,
the information clearly just isn't quite reaching enough people or with enough seriousness.
Yeah. But anyway, so I got this nice little do with my beard trim.
Yeah. What's so what's it like in are you working on any, are you doing any, first off, I want to make sure and plug any of your stuff. Are you doing any like social media stuff through this? Are you trying to like inform people or comment on it, or still just in the gathering information?
I've been posting some stuff here and there on at Raj Sivaraman on Twitter.
All right.
Yeah. And
you have like a website for people to check out some of your stand-up or anything?
Yeah, rajsivaraman.com.
Are people trying to organize a lot of the virtual? I got asked to do a virtual stand-up show, and I said no, and then I posted on Twitter that I'm not doing virtual stand-up shows, so don't bother asking. But is that, I am wondering what every comic in New York and everything is doing.
I've done like 2 like virtual science shows.
Yeah,
like
but that's great.
Shows, but they're like, it's kind of like the blend of science and meant to be funny, but it was because it was like early in the coronavirus spread phase where people were like, I need to know everything about this. That it was if it's more serious and informational, that's fine too. But I try to make it funny and interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird not having an audience. And I just kind of assume, I guess it's kind of like doing Twitter anyway. It's like you just post something and just hope that someone finds it amusing.
Yeah, but it's different because someone reads something and then they're reading and they're judging whether it's funny or not on their own without the trained like subconscious influence of like, oh, I wait and hear what the social cues are and see if, oh, is there, there was never a laugh track for Twitter anyway.
Right.
There's, I mean, I guess there's like number of retweets or likes that's priming your perception or judgment a little bit. But I think that comics are like, if I say a funny joke and it's funny, someone at home will laugh, and the audience assumes if the person is funny and says something funny, I will laugh, not realizing all of the subconscious primes that go into this. Is why we have basements with low ceilings. This is why we force audience members against their will to sit in the front row. Like all of the things that we have to do because, and then so now you're like coming off like you're bombing when you're doing your best material, and it's awkward, and then it's amateur-y, and I don't know. It's like I know it's the least of our concerns right now, but just because like I said, you're going to be the only comic that I have on this. From my point of view, and the reason why, in case listeners are wondering why I'm not like doing virtual comedy shows like other comics aren't, it's because I want stand-up comedy to still exist after all of this is over, and I don't want it to be completely ruined by awful virtual shows that change the public's perception. It's like how people still think heckling is a good idea because of 80s comedy. Imagine people's perception of comedy after pandemic stand-up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why go to live comedy when you can just watch these people Twitch, play video games, and do jokes at the same time?
What's the sense? The thing is, in Wisconsin, is that people can get themselves a freezer, and they can, take advantage of good deals and stock up on when things are on sale and plentiful, in a responsible way that isn't hoarding and taking a way. There's not like a meat or vegetable shortage or anything right now, and so they can stock up to save some money, and then they can eliminate the number of times that they have to go out and go to the grocery store, just like little things like that, and they can stock up on. I mean, no one needs the 80-year supply of toilet paper that people seem to need, but hand sanitizer or anything else. And I don't, without knowing anything about your accommodations, I imagine living in Brooklyn, you have some fairly modest accommodations, as does every other comic in the city. So it's hard for anyone in that area to stock up. That means they need to go out more.
Yeah.
How are people responding? Are people being respectful? Are people distancing? Is it a variety of? Is it unpredictable? Is it?
I think like the amount of overall traffic on the streets is less, and I don't know how much of it. So I live in Park Slope, which is kind of a wealthier part of Brooklyn, and I feel like a lot of people have left the city, which is one thing, and then so I don't know how many fewer people there are in New York now than there is normally, but the people that are out in the streets, they are heavily wearing masks, often incorrectly, and outside of that, not really paying much attention to space and the distance that you should have from person to person. So we have a kid, so it's kind of mandatory that we like go out for our sanity for like a walk or something, and he loses his mind too. So every time we go out for a walk, it's just like everyone's like, I'm I don't need to move aside and let you pass, because the sidewalks in New York are not, or at least where we live, are not very wide. So it's kind of like one person needs to pull off to the side in order to let the other person have enough space. But yeah, I feel like people are not really embracing the distancing as they should. But I do think that overall people are staying home a lot more. I think in general, I think just the way that the grocery stores have been, like we're only going out to do groceries. I mean, we don't have enough space. Like we don't have an extra freezer or anything that we can store stuff in.
I'm sure almost nobody does in all of New York City.
We have, like we have a couple of bags of like backup stuff that should last us like another couple weeks, but I'm anticipating that this is going to take a few months. So, I also don't know like what the situation is with the overall food supply and in the long term. And I don't know what they're going to do to shore that up and make sure that there's no issues with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm still perplexed why Purell's not back on stores. I don't know if do you have it in Wisconsin?
No.
Yeah. So it's like you're a huge business and somehow there's no new Purell that's being made.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I've worked in factories and they usually make a variety. I did like machine parts for things. I worked in a crouton factory for a while. And
they manufacture croutons?
Yeah.
Like huge slabs of bread?
Yeah, you make the bread, you stale the bread, you chop the bread, you bake it, you season it, stuff it in a bag, put that bag in a box, and off you go. And I worked in furniture factory, was for like 4 years, and if it was like one single product that all of a sudden there was lots of demand for, I mean, there'd be some constraints, but I don't see how they wouldn't have, any one of the places that I worked for wouldn't have like reworked things a little bit to crank out to like take advantage and meet the
Or,
demand.
Reallocated resources somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy to me that there's no new. I've not seen hand sanitizer anywhere in weeks, and the only ones I could see were like kind of these really really off brand hand sanitizer. So it's just curious to me, like how, if we're going to have a more sustained, I think we're calling it a pause in New York, but if this pause is so long, like what's the lasting effects of that? And why are we making just a subset of all the people responsible for getting our produce and food and everything else, they're all working, but there's servers and everybody else in every other industry is not really doing their jobs because they have no jobs to do.
Right.
So it seems like we're just putting strains on only like a handful of sectors. But long and the short of it is we go out not more than once for groceries. And in the grocery store, it's a madhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the grocery stores in New York are not, I don't think they're like Walmart's, where
Right.
they're pretty small. And there's not a lot of, the aisles are very narrow. So it's really hard to shop and not feel like I probably got it.
Yeah. Whew.
And I saw last time I was in a grocery store, there was just one of the people there were just eating food, like walking down the aisles, just like chewing down on a Danish or something. And I was just like, okay, they don't seem to care.
Huh. Well, now I wonder what's going to happen when people, I think more and more people are probably going to flee New York. Has it crossed your mind to head back to Wisconsin or anything?
Yeah, we thought about going somewhere else, but I think at this rate, so anywhere we go with families, our families are either old or there's somebody who's pregnant. And so it's like, it's kind of irresponsible for us to go to any place and not at least quarantine ourselves for 14 days. So
yeah, I guess I have a friend that got an Airbnb recently because he didn't want to be in LA. And so he got an Airbnb in like Arizona or something like that and had to do like a month at a time or something. Yeah, because you can't just check in and out for a couple days anymore. You have to have like a minimum month thing, and I don't even know how. I'm sure not many people are doing that right now.
Airbnbs, yeah, because I feel like with Airbnb you also have to kind of trust that, like, how clean is it clean enough when you walk in, and are there, especially since there's like wipes you can't get wipes anymore either. So
God, remember when we were just worried about herpes?
I know.
Wasn't that just simpler times? I should have had so much more sex with strangers, Raj. I didn't know. I didn't know the apocalypse was right around.
All these people you could have been kissing. You could have got Epstein-Barr, which is another herpes virus.
Collect them all. What's that? What's Epstein-Barr?
It's mono.
Ah.
So it causes mono.
Wait, herpes causes mono?
Well, one of the herpes family causes mono.
Okay. So that's just one of many causes of mono, or that's how you get mono?
The cause of mono. Mono.
So if you get mono, it's from herpes.
Yeah, it's Epstein-Barr virus is what causes it.
So mono's like, I bet I remember like kids in high school getting mono. Is that because they were
spreading
making out?
Yeah, that's how you get it.
You get it under the bleachers?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
It's dangling down like a spider.
Boy, I did not know a thing about virology.
Yeah, so when we think of herpes, we really only think of like herpes 1 and herpes 2. So I think Epstein-Barr is herpes 4. I think it's 4.
Wow. So many herpes I never knew about. Never even got a chance to catch any of them.
There's 8 of them.
Well, one day, hopefully, things will get back to normal. I can get out there and get one of my 8 herpes.
Well, you probably have 3.
Really?
Probably.
I mean, I like to think I lived a little bit.
Maybe you have 4. For sure. You had chickenpox?
Yeah, I had chickenpox. Boom, herpes.
Chickenpox. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have mono? I assume you didn't have mono.
Nope.
No mono. So you
and come to find out, it's because I wasn't cool enough.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's why I never had mono.
Yeah, basically.
Damn it.
Then cytomegalovirus most people have already. So you probably have cytomegalovirus.
What's that?
It's like a herpes virus that doesn't really do anything.
You should do a whole show like get to know your viruses. Like here's all the viruses you're already hosting.
Yeah.
That you don't even know about.
Or all the bacteria that lives on your skin and in your gut and mouth.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah, all the
good
stuff.
Some of it.
Yeah. Most likely you probably have herpes 1.
You think I have herpes 1?
I mean, 80% of the U.S. population has herpes 1.
Oh, okay.
And 20% have herpes 2. So,
what is I feel like those numbers mean people aren't given enough oral. If 80% of people have herpes 1 can lead to herpes 2 by giving someone oral sex. Then I feel like there's just like not a lot of very generous lovers out there.
Well, that's probably true. That's for sure. I think that's probably true. But herpes 1 doesn't lead to herpes 2. They're 2 different things.
Oh, okay.
It's like SARS 1, SARS 2. Like,
okay.
If you get SARS 1, that doesn't lead to SARS 2.
Oh, that's what I thought, but I was confused. What was the thing that you said earlier? That if you have 2, you can contract.
So herpes 1 is mostly oral,
okay.
But you can spread herpes 1 genitally too.
Oh, okay.
So some herpes.
I have herpes 1.
Yeah.
I go down on the lady who has nothing. She gets herpes 1 from me, and then herpes 1 is now coming through her saliva.
I don't think it spreads back from her. So she's like now she just has genital herpes 1.
Genital herpes 1, and then does genital herpes 1
spread? I don't think so.
Genitally, and then then that's it. Then you just have genital herpes 1, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think it's an infection that you just get, and then it just goes away. It's not like sustaining like other herpes.
Not bad. Not a bad herpes. I mean, in the context of Corona ending our civilization, herpes 1 doesn't look so bad. I take everything back that I've ever said bad about herpes. Wasn't so bad after all. It was kind of like how we yearn for the days of the whimsical George W. Goofs.
Remember when he almost died from choking on a pretzel?
Those were the days. That's what herpes 1 is like now.
Basically, I feel like, I remember when I was in grad school, we were trying to get funding, and it's like you're trying to really hard to convince people that herpes is like a very dangerous, because the only way to get money is like if something's dangerous,
will it kill you?
And it will kill you, and it's such a stretch.
Are there pathogen like threat levels? Are there like, this is a pathogen 1, this is a pathogen 2, this is a 3, a 4, 5?
Yeah, there's biosafety levels. So I think herpes. So when you work with herpes viruses, which I did for a while, you have to use a certain hood and certain techniques to just make sure that you didn't infect yourself by accident. So basically that's BL2. So what I don't know if you remember the movie Outbreak.
Yes.
Yeah, so the movie Outbreak, when they wear those hazmat suits and like have the air ventilators in their back. So Ebola and uh, any other hemorrhagic fever virus, those are all BL4s.
Hmm.
So you really like need very, very high level of precaution and protection. And then BL3, I think, is where coronavirus is currently. So it's sort of like the level of risk to fatality. So because coronavirus, it is very fatal, but it's not Ebola level fatal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's high, spreads a lot better. So that's BL3. But I think, conceivably, if the entire human population gets immunity to coronavirus, then maybe it goes down to BL2.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, to answer, long-winded way to answer your question, there are there are threat levels of virus.
Makes sense. Huh. Boy, this is. Do you think that maybe this is the most that humans have ever learned in like a 3-week period? Like everybody, everyone is learning so much. It's not just virology. We're learning how to I guess I better take up cooking, even though I haven't cooked in 5 years. Better to learn a
I'm a
new
baker.
skill.
I'm a baker now, and yeah, that's a good point. I feel like everyone has gotten into like their own hobby horse of figuring out like, okay, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to do
Oh,
something.
they sure better. We're all going to have to be the most flexible we've ever needed to be in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Oh man, learning on the fly. Well, thank you so much, Raj, for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I wish you and your family the best.
Yeah, same to you.
Yeah.
Are you with your family?
Yeah. I was gonna, because I've been living on the road for like a year out of
Mm-hmm.
Airbnbs and hotels.
Oh man.
Was my dream until this happened, then
Yikes.
became a nightmare. And so I went from home free to homeless real quickly. And at first, when I wasn't sure because I wasn't talking with virologists or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh, I guess maybe I'll just like, oh, okay, I'll cancel a few gigs. Maybe I'll hunker down with some friends for like a little longer in LA. I have tons of friends in LA that I never get to see as much. Great opportunities. I'll take some meetings, everything else. And then there was just a period of time that it was like every day stuff escalated so quickly. I was like, oh no, I gotta get the fuck out of here right now. And even by the time I left, it was much later than I should have. And oh my god, someone tried to warn me about this like back in February, and it fell on deaf ears. I was just like, oh well, okay, I guess even scientists can be hypochondriacs. All right, and did not heed the warning.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the CDC director back in end of February was like, life will be disrupted significantly. Prepare for that. And then there was a news conference with the president. And I think that person, not the CDC director, it was like an assistant CDC director, but the person who said that was on the podium with Trump, and he was like, nah, it's not going to be a big deal.
I've heard, I asked them to send me the link and I haven't seen it, so this might be more fake news, but I heard that something like 90% of Republicans that were in whatever survey believe Trump over the CDC. And this is how societies end.
Yeah, I feel like the other thing is, have you seen anything from the CDC director?
Not really. I haven't been watching much of the news.
Yeah, but like you think about movies with, every stereotypical pandemic movie, the CDC director is always a major character of that movie because the CDC director should be telling people
right. Intuitively, yeah. If you're a screenwriter, you like call a few people and then you go like, then what would happen? Then what would the correct process be so I can make this realistic for my movie?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I feel like the CDC director we have currently is doing that Homer GIF into the bushes as he's just like fading into the background. He's like, not me, not this virus. I don't like it.
Oh man. Well, best of luck to you, my friend. Can't wait to
Same
see
to
you in
you.
person again
Yeah.
sometime when all of this, and do a live stand-up comedy show together.
Good luck with your tour in August.
Yeah, I'm not terribly hopeful, but I mean I'm in a situation where it's not like I don't put money into marketing until like 2 weeks before, so it doesn't, I can always cancel a week before, and I'm just out the amount of time that I spent on booking things.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So,
enjoy Wisconsin. Otherwise, get some cheese curds.
Yeah, I get to talk with a bunch of scientists each day, and that makes me happy. So
yeah, that's good.
Pretty cool. Well, thanks, man, and thank you, listeners, for being such a wonderful, curious people. We'll see you next episode.
Are we?
Yes.
Where are we?
Here.
Why are we here? Not entirely clear. We are misfits thrust into existence by random chance, with no hints at all as to how we're supposed to make sense of it all. It's immensely bizarre. Here we are.